Hello and welcome back to Ming's Outboard Garage. Over the past few weeks, we've been able to restore both of these two motors, the JH-22 as well as the JW-12, back to working condition. In this video, we'll summarize all the different steps that we took and the learnings that we gained along the way. Let's get to work. The first page of the Johnson Service Manual states that we need 3 important ingredients in order to get this motor to run, and that's gas, compression, and spark. So in the first video, the first thing that we did was to test for compression and spark using the tools that we had, and we also did a pop test. So we delivered fuel directly into the cylinders of the power head and then pulled on the starter to see if the motor would pop. And it did. So this was a great first step in terms of restoring the motor. Next, what we did was we focused on the fuel system. So we knew we had compression and spark. There was something that was wrong with the fuel delivery, not getting the fuel from the fuel tank into the carburetor and finally into the power head. So those were the different systems that we focused on. First, we cleaned out the fuel tank completely. So using nuts and bolts, putting it inside as part of a physical reaction, as well as using various cleaning products for a chemical reaction as well. So using warm soapy water, distilled vinegar, as well as denatured alcohol, we were able to give this fuel tank a really good cleaning. Moving down from the fuel tank, next, we went to the carburetor. For the carburetor, we had several episodes on diagnosing and cleaning out the carburetor. So you can watch that in detail in the episodes down below. We also noticed that the spring that was connecting the carburetor to the magneto was no longer had enough tension. So we made our own makeshift spring out of one that we bought from Home Depot. So once we were able to fix the carburetor and the fuel tank and the fuel delivery system, we were able to get this motor running. However, one thing that we noticed was that there wasn't a visible water discharge coming out of the motor. Now, initially, I thought this was a problem because the water discharge I thought was common and expected for these types of motors. But upon further research and different testing and diagnosing, we were able to determine that this was part of the design for the JH-22, as opposed to the JW over there, which did have a visible discharge. The JH did not. For the lower unit, I also showed you how to change the oil, as well as remove and put back the lower unit and connect it to the rest of the motor. After we finished working on the lower unit, we then made some additional aesthetic changes. So for example, the propeller was initially broken and only 2 of the blades were left. So we took that off and replaced it with the new one. On top here, the hand starter was also fixed. So the hand starter was not unwinding properly. Well, I showed you how to disassemble and put it back together. And we realized that there was a lot of old grease that was built up inside. So after cleaning it and re-lubricating it, now it works like a charm. So overall, I had a really fun time restoring this motor. I've learned a lot along the way, and this motor has really grown on me as well. Upon the client's request, I did not do any sort of painting or outside exterior work besides ordering and painting this handle. Otherwise, the outside looks exactly the same as when I first got it. So why don't we take this for one last spin in the barrel, and we'll call it a day. Okay, let's remember the steps for starting the motor. We want to make sure that the gas is flowing. So we turn the fuel on, the vent and then we put the choke on, 1 to 2 pulls with the throttle lever just a little bit above start, then choke off and continue to pull. I hope you were able to learn and have just as much fun as I did. As I mentioned in my previous video comparing the JH to the JW, the JH or the JW models are great beginner models to start on, especially to learn about how these outboard motors work, the various components. They're easy to take apart and put back together. There's tons of information online as well as different rebuild kits available. And in terms of my own projects, after this JH-22 3 horsepower, I plan to move on to a higher horsepower model, likely the CDs, which are also in the 1950s and 60s era, made by Johnson. So stay tuned and I'll bring you some more episodes in the near future.